But the topic on AI adoption, the gap there, I think this is an important one for right now because we're at this moment in time where most organizations have at least done a little bit in a little part of their organization on AI implementation. But at the same time, so many organizations are struggling to see real results with it, to see meaningful productivity that actually impacts their financials. And that's the gap that organizations are really dealing with right now. And the interesting thing is that the reason for that gap is largely not a technology thing. It's not a matter of AI capability. It's more a matter of the approach that organizations are taking to AI. And a part of that is this gap that we have between the way that employees are looking at it and the way that leadership teams are looking at AI. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack this afternoon. So I think just about everybody knows me, but for those that may not, again, I'm Clyde Calhoun. I'm the founder and CEO of Root Idea. Our company helps our clients to catch those AI errors that can impact the P&L or disrupt operations or damage reputation. And we've had the opportunity to work with dozens of great global brands, including companies like TransUnion and Samsung and GE as well. And so I'm excited to really share a little bit more about some of that work in the course of this. But the way this time's going to go, I'm going to spend about 15 minutes and share a few insights to give you a greater context around this issue of misalignment. And then we'll open it up for a true roundtable discussion and Q&A. And so one thing I would ask you to do is that as I'm going through the next few slides and sharing, if you have questions, please jot those down or drop them in the chat as well, because I want to make sure that you don't lose that thought as we go through the presentation that I'll share here in just a minute. So with that said, again, excited to roll into this. And I'm going to actually start on this idea of AI misalignment. Now, as I mentioned, I think most organizations have done at least a little bit on AI. And actually, there's some recent survey data that would suggest that 8 out of 10 executives believe that they've clearly communicated their intentions on AI to the rest of their organization. That's what their strong belief is. But surprisingly, only about 1 in 4 employees actually say that their leadership team is clear and aligned on their AI intentions for the organization. And so just think about that. Eight out of 10 leaders believe that they've communicated effectively, and 75% of their employees believe that they haven't. And so that is a stark contrast there. And if that's not bad enough, I would take it one step further, because 1 in 5 employees aren't even sure if they're running AI inside their organization at all. I mean, that's not to say that 1 in 5, don't have anything going with AI, but 1 in 5 aren't aware if they even have AI operating inside their company or not. And so again, that's the divide that's there. And so it prompts the question that I think every leader needs to think about. What's going on inside your organization? I mean, if you were to go to 5 employees and ask them their perspective on AI, what is the intention of the company? Would the 5 people in that you talk to give you roughly the same answer? Would they give you the same answer that your leadership team would expect, the messages that you've been putting out there? Or even taking a step further back, is your leadership team being even clearer? Are you even talking about what your intentions are on AI, even as a step back from that? And so there's a lot to unpack with just that. But this whole idea of closing that gap between what leaders think and what employees think is an important part, because there are real consequences for that. If you think about the impact, both in terms of value, but also in terms of risk, those are significant as well. On the value side, when alignment is missing or poor, priorities become muddled, and employees end up chasing too many use cases or the wrong use cases. And it's just really difficult for those efforts to connect. I mean, you've got so many people working in different areas that your resources become diffused, and adoption stalls out. It's also very difficult when you've got a lot of uncertainty or inside your organization to have any of that flow back to things that you can measure on your P&L. And then as a result, you also see employee confidence drop as well, both confidence in AI as a technology, but also confidence in leadership. And then you also have the impact on engagement as well. It was interesting because some recent data from Gallup indicates that employee engagement is lower than it is lower right now. It's lower than it was even during the height of the pandemic. And so that's the level of uncertainty and confusion and angst that's out there more generally when it comes to employee sentiment. And that lack of engagement by employees has a real world impact, not just with AI, but as you think about the larger productivity piece across your organization, so many different areas are touched by that. So that's why it's important from a value perspective to get your arms around this misalignment that may be occurring. On the risk side, as you look at where you've got poor alignment or misalignment, employees fill in the gaps on their own. And we see a rise in shadow AI or employees that are using their own solutions, AI solutions at work. Those things grow as there's misalignment inside the organization. And those solutions are also a little bit more challenging to control across the organization. So as you think about just information security, but you also think about the way that people are using those tools to make decisions, that can flow into compliance and regulatory issues as a result. And incidentally, one of the largest causes of expenses from organizations that are having AI incidents is regulatory related. I mean, there's a whole bunch of state and federal and international regulations when it comes to AI that companies find themselves getting out of sync with, and it does cost them. The last thing I would just say is just trust in AI outputs erode over time if you're not getting that alignment and being clear about what it means to validate solutions, document AI appropriately, and that can increase your risk exposure as well. So a number of different things that you need to tackle in that space. So as you think about those organizations that are getting it right, those organizations that are actually seeing results from AI show up in their P&L, the ones that are winning on the leading edge, what are they doing differently when it comes to alignment? Because that is a big part of the reason why they're successful. And these three things really stand out. Number one, they treat AI not just as like a technology initiative, but they treat it like a major organizational change. And so that looks differently, first of all, from an ownership point of view, because you can't have just the IT organization owning AI. You have to have the entire C-suite effectively, driving the charge on that. And a good way to think about it is if it were a major merger or acquisition, or you're looking at building a new factory or launching an entire new product line, how would you handle that? I mean, think about the messages that would be going out inside your organization. It wouldn't be a one-off on here's what we're doing. It would be day after day of this change is coming. Here's what it means for you and your team. Here's how you need to think about integrating this new part of the organization so that we can be effective. It looks very different than the way a lot of organizations are treating AI right now. But the ones that are being successful with it have that focus on making it a major initiative. And then likewise, they're focusing their efforts as well. So the organizations that are most successful pick only one or two, or at most three things, depending on the size of the organization, and they're dedicating resources to those things, dedicated project teams. They're laser focused on how those things connect to the things that they care about day in and day out, like revenue or profit improvement or operational efficiency or market share, the things that matter the most. And they're just driving those relentlessly. And just to give you an example on this one, we worked with a client that for about 18 months prior to engaging with us, they'd had a couple dozen pilots ongoing with AI across the enterprise. And when we did a session with them, we zeroed them in on two things specifically. And so they went from having a couple dozen down to two things that they were really focused on that were really related to revenue, effectively. But in the course of a year, they were able to grow revenue 10% above market based on having that focus and really not trying to spread themselves too thin with their AI efforts. They were connecting the dots with the things that mattered the most. Then the third thing I just talk about as well in terms of what winning organizations are doing is engaging those advocates inside the organization as true champions. And this is an important component of it because you have to have people inside of your organization that not only know the technology well and can be a resource for people that have questions or need support, but they also have to be change management experts as well to advance the development of the or an integration of the technology inside the organization. And so that's important, not just that they're knowledgeable about AI, but they're also versed on what they need to do to drive awareness and desire and knowledge and create the abilities and reinforce that across the organization. Those are important capabilities. And we actually do training in that space too, to prepare champions to do it exactly that and bust through the resistance that many organizations are facing. But that's what good looks like. And so, Jen, just one thing I want to leave you with in terms of this last slide that before I open it up. I just want to talk about 5 things that you can do in the next 30 days that can help you close the gap on AI alignment. And it starts with listening. And we're really big advocates of doing small group discussions inside your organization to understand how employees are feeling about AI. Where are they using it? Where do they see value in it? What's holding them back? I mean, really easy lift for everyone to do. And it creates, number one, it builds trust, but it also provides great context as you think about building out the strategy and driving change across the organization. And so, secondly, as I think about that strategy piece, it is bringing people together to build that strategy collectively. What we often see is we'll have leadership teams that develop the strategy for AI for the organization, but they haven't gotten any ground up input on what that looks like. They're just building it in the vacuum and then thrusting it out there for the rest of the organization to digest. And it often doesn't work because they haven't really understood the view from the ground and what they need to navigate. And so that's the second thing that I would say that you can do in the next 30 days. Third thing is scale back what you're doing and focus on the 1 or 2 things that mean the most, things that you care about on a day-to-day basis. Again, whether it's things like operational efficiency or cash flow, or you think about market share, growth, whatever it is there something that AI can bring to the table to help you accelerate or amplify those efforts and zero in on that and track that relentlessly? As I think about the champion network, as I touched on earlier, it is about identifying those advocates inside your organization that you can then equip that can help you bust through resistance. And resistance is a real thing. There's some data from Writer AI from earlier this year that about 1/3 of employees are actively resisting AI. And so you've got to crack through that gap if you're going to have the type of sustained success and generate the results that you're looking for with your AI efforts. And then lastly, I would just say communicate relentlessly. That is something that if you're not talking about AI at least every week, I mean, I would almost venture to say a little bit more than that. It's easy for folks to forget exactly what you intend. And too many organizations will develop a strategy, they'll put it out there once, and then it's business as usual. And we know firsthand from advertising and from politics and so many other areas that repetition is an important part of locking in belief and value with some of these things. And so that's important that you actually have a communications plan for how you're going to talk about consistently what you're doing in the AI space. Because once again, I thank you for your participation today. I always enjoy the conversation. if there's someone, from your organization or someone else that you know that missed this conversation and you think they would benefit, let me know and we can look at getting an encore discussion there. Or if you're in the process of doing something with AI or you've got an initiative that's about to launch and you just want to get another perspective on it, happy to talk that through. If you'd like to learn more about our capabilities and what we do for our clients, whether it's on the strategy work or looking at setting up the controls environment or training and support for champions and other folks in the organization, happy to share more about that. And then lastly, I would encourage you to join our August virtual conversation. We're going to be talking about AI under pressure, the questions that your auditor will ask you that you may not have the answer to just yet. This is becoming more of a thing as you look at board oversight in terms of the audit committees, but also independent auditors looking at financials now in this age where AI is finding its way into the daily processes across organizations. So that's August 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And I think there should be a link in the chat if you want to just click on that and register for that session too. So with that, again, thank you very much. And I hope you all have a great rest of the week. So take care, everybody. Great seeing you all.